Welcome to Making Memoir Magic, the podcast where we unlock the power of your story and guide you through the magical process of turning life experiences into memoirs that inspire and impact. I'm your host, Kerry Kriseman, a memoir mentor and storytelling champion, and I'm here to help you find the courage to embrace your unique story and share it with the world. Whether you're just starting out or refining your final draft, this is the place to be for practical tips, inspiration, and the encouragement you need to write the memoir only you can tell. Ready to make some magic? Let's dive in. Welcome to Making Memoir Magic, the podcast for aspiring authors who want to write brave, beautiful, true stories. I'm Kerry Kriseman. I'm an author, teacher, and your resident storytelling cheerleader. And if you've been staring at a blank page, wondering where to begin your memoir, well, you're not alone. Today's episode is called Where to Begin, Finding the First Page of Your Memoir. And here's a spoiler alert. It's probably not going to be at the beginning. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the writer's room that everyone sometimes feels like they know or that they're dealing with. And that is the feeling of overwhelm. So now you know how that feels. It's a sticky, heavy, paralyzing feeling that hits you the second you decide, yes, I'm going to write my story. Think about it. We've all been there. You go and you sit down. Maybe you're in your favorite spot in your office or a coffee shop or the library. You have a delicious coffee or tea. You've got the quintessential setup. You may even have a pen and a brand new notebook or journal. And suddenly your brain goes, wait, where do I even start? Do I begin with childhood? Or do I begin with a big life-changing event? I'm not sure. And you sit there and nothing happens. Maybe you think about whether you begin with a moment that everything fell apart or that you put something back together, part of your life. Either way, it's an awful feeling to have, and it's not so easy to get out of that place and actually get words on the page. So here's my advice to start off with this elephant in the room. Unless there was an inciting moment in your childhood that relates to the main theme or themes of your memoir, you don't necessarily need to start there. You don't start at the beginning. Overwhelm happens when you feel like your story is so big. But what you need to remember is that memoir is not your entire life. That's an autobiography. Memoir encompasses years of memories, feelings, and seasons. So you simply can't capture it all at once. But what you can do is shift your mindset so that you can banish the overwhelm and replace it with productivity. So it's important that you release the pressure that your memoir needs to be your entire life story. If that's what you think, forget about it. Don't ever say that to yourself again, because it's not. You are writing a story from your life. See the difference? It's not your life story. It's a story from your life. So going from that one shift from thinking everything to something, that will free you faster than any writing prompt ever could. Although I do believe in a good writing prompt, and I know they have their place. And I recently had another resource with some of my favorite writing prompts. But let's get back to what we are talking about today. Another trap, we're going to talk about some traps. Another trap that creates the overwhelm that so many aspiring memoirists face is the feeling that you must write chronologically. So sometimes it makes sense to do so, but often that's not the case. Writing chronologically, start to finish, beginning to end, birth to death, again, that's an autobiography, may feel like the appropriate process, but it can kill creativity. Writing chronologically can flatten the emotional heartbeat of your story into just a timeline, and that's no fun. Memoirs are not timelines. We make lists for that. Timelines have their place, but it's not in a memoir. It's not a list of events. A memoir shows transformations. Your reader will recognize the natural timeline that you impart in your story, but what they come to your book for is the transformation. They want to know how you got from point A to point B and what happened in between and how it changed you. And so that's what you need to remember when you're writing memoir. If you endeavor to write your story in the order that everything happened, then you risk not revealing the true meaning of your story. And readers also, they don't want to know everything that happened. They want to just know what mattered. They want to see how you changed. They want to know what almost broke you, what it meant to you, how you overcame it, and who was there. Who are the other people there? You've got to show the other people that you went through all of this with and talk about them. If you're merely listing events on a timeline, you're not going to get that. They want to know what you learned, but not in a lesson or preachy kind of way. Through your storytelling, you will share what you learned and what it means to them. So instead of asking what happened first, what I need to know what happened first, and that's where I start, ask yourself, what moment changed everything? That is where your memoir begins. So I want to give you an example, and I'm going to share with you how I started my own memoir, Accidental First Lady. In answering that question, um, what moment changed everything? Write about the phone call from our friend who lived down the street. He asked if he could stop by. It was a quiet Sunday evening at home. He had a question for my husband, but he wanted both of us to be there. So my husband and I have always enjoyed wine. We have a glass almost every night with dinner. So it was natural, even on a Sunday evening, to open a bottle to share with our friend who wanted to sit around our small kitchen table and ask a seemingly important question to my husband. The question was, what do you think about running for city council? So, sounds simple enough, right? But my husband had never thought of running for office. It was something that we never talked about as a couple. It may not sound very inciting or dramatic, but that question set off 3 days of contemplation, conversations, and reflection between my husband and me. Our answer, and yes, to my husband running for public office, this was our decision dictating the next 22 years of our lives. So it was an important answer that we were going to give. Thinking back, it impacted most of our daughter's life. She was only 18 months at the time of his first campaign, and all of our son's life. My husband was elected to something during 22 of the 29 years we'd been married at the time. We celebrate 33 in November, so no, politics didn't break us, but it impacted me in ways I would have never imagined. So, not to digress too much, but that bottle of wine shared between three friends launched a life I would have never imagined. That was my defining moment. But now we're going to talk about how you can find your defining moment. So, the defining moment of your memoir is that powerful first scene that hooks your reader. Now, I'm hoping and thinking that my readers wanted to know what's with the wine, why is she talking about the wine, and what is this question? So immediately I set it up with tension. But what scene is going to hook your reader and remind you why you're writing this story in the first place? So I want you to think of it like this. If your life were a movie, what scene would roll first? Would it be you packing a suitcase and leaving home for the last time? Or sitting in your car after a diagnosis wondering what comes next? Or maybe it's standing on a beach, spreading ashes, and realizing that grief can be both heavy and holy. Your defining moment is usually the scene where you realize, consciously or not, that life as you knew it has shifted. You may not have had the words for it then, but looking back, you see it clearly now. That's the beauty of memoir. It's storytelling through hindsight. So grab your notebook and jot this down. Write down, what moment split my life into a before and an after? That's the moment to explore. That's where your memoir truly begins. So when I first started writing my book, I made the same mistake that I just warned you about. I thought, okay, I'll start with when my husband decided, or us, decided to run for office. That's the beginning. But it wasn't really. because the story wasn't really about politics. It was about how life can take you in directions you never imagined, and how an answer to a question can launch a career that can affect your identity, marriage, and friendships. It's also about reinvention and defining yourself. So once I realized what carefully selected seminal moments throughout those 22 years meant in the larger context of the themes in my memoir, that's where my story found me. The words started flowing. Now, this did take time, and my first paragraphs were far from perfect, but they had what every memoir needs, and they had honesty. Every memoir is going to morph through edits, refinements, and reorganization. But over time, the truth of your story is revealed in ways only you can tell it. So if you're sitting there thinking, I know I want to write a memoir, but I still don't know where to start, here's my invitation. Don't start with the first memory. Start with the most meaningful one. Write into the heart of your story, not its history. You can always go back and fill in the rest later. When you begin from the moment that everything changes, your memoir finds its pulse, and that pulse is your emotional rhythm. It's what keeps readers turning pages. So if you're ready to find your defining moment and outline your story in a way that actually feels doable, I've created something just for you. It's called the Memoir Blueprint. It's free. It's a simple guide to outlining your life story. And when I say life story, remember it's the story of part of your life, okay? It's not your story from beginning to end autobiography. It's going to walk you through steps to help you find your story's focus, theme, and emotional arc so you can stop overthinking and start writing. This is free and you can grab it right now. Just head to the link in the show notes and download it. Start using it today. It's your first small step toward writing your big, brave story. So I hope that you found this episode helpful and insightful. I appreciate your listening, and I know that if you use this guide and find your defining moment, that your memoir will take off. So thank you for spending this time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please follow, leave a review, and share it with another writer who needs that gentle nudge to begin, because someone out there needs your story. But first, you must start writing it. So until next time, I'm Kerry Kriseman. I thank you for listening, and I hope you go and make some memoir magic today. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Making Memoir Magic. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step toward telling your unique story through memoir. Remember, your story matters, and someone out there is waiting to hear it. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find the show. You can also connect with me at my website, kerrykriseman.com, on social media, on Instagram at Make Memoir Magic, or join my Facebook group, Making Memoir Magic for Aspiring Writers. You'll get more tips and inspiration on your memoir journey. Until next time, keep writing, keep sharing, and keep making memoir magic.